Welcome to Global Risk Community Chat. Today, our guest is Jason Rogers. I'm very happy to have you here today, Jason. Welcome.
Thanks, EC. It's great to be here.
Likewise, so before we jump into our topic for today, can you shortly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jason Rogers. I'm the CEO of Enveri. At Enveri, we ensure the security and confidentiality of systems based on technology that we license from the NSA. Ultimately, what that means is we ensure the runtime integrity of the core layers of a system and give our partners and customers confidence in their data privacy, something that's super important to AI.
Mm, Sounds good. So, as far as I know, today we will be mainly talking about ensuring the security and confidentiality of AI lifecycle. You shortly kind of mentioned to that as well. So, I guess let's get into it. So, what would be the primary things that, we want to share about this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'd like to start with the data around AI. So it starts with your raw data, the training data that you use, the weights of the network itself, the metadata attached to it, and then I think most importantly, the inference data. So this data is some of the most highly valuable assets that an organization can have. And then, of course, that means there's high risk to it, right? And the concerns and probably pretty evident for you and for your listeners around this data, has it been tampered with? It means the results of my AI might not be correct, and that creates risk for the organization. Has it been stolen? So again, being a valuable asset, or my competitors, is somebody else reproducing what I've done? And has it been accidentally tainted? Something inside the system, is accidentally manipulated the network to create that outcome. So, and I mentioned before, inference data is especially concerning because this is information that people internal to the organization, maybe your customers, are giving to the AI to help it make decisions and recommendations. This can contain PII. It can contain your company's IP. So it's something that we definitely need to make sure is protected and mitigated the risk on as much as we can. Any other data that would contain IP or PII.
Mm,
So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Actually, yeah, interesting to think about because usually when we lately talk about, let's say, AI or, risk associated with AI, most of our guests or, like on the media as well, what you see is mostly bias or, like maybe other aspects. Like, okay, they are, of course, bias is also related to it, but training the AI. But I think the data part of it, like how correct or, the data is also not talked as much. So with that, I want to maybe ask another like follow-up question on how, like maybe elaborating a bit more into it, more key things about this, this, yeah, topic.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And also keeping in mind that, the AIs continue to get better and new models are continuing to be trained, which is just amplifying the data that we're talking about. So the risk and the security that we need to take in place, this data continues to be amplified too. And also, if you or your listeners are working in a shared environment, am I working in a hosted environment? Is it multi-tenant? Then I have to worry about other jobs on these systems impacting my jobs and somehow. So, but to maybe pivot a little bit to what do we do? I think the primary topic I wanted to come across here is to look at confidential computing. So if you or your listeners aren't familiar with confidential computing, the key tenet here is that, in the past, organizations have been great about encrypting data at rest and encrypting data in transit. But we sort of forgot about data in use in memory. And so that's really what, the heart of confidential computing is about, is making sure data while we're using it is encrypted based on a trusted execution environment, hardware-based encryption. And so, that's a key aspect to make sure as we're building out these environments, we're running them in a confidential computing space. Along with, encryption, confidential computing has a big attestation component, which is basically saying the things that I assume to be true in my environment, I'm going to verify that they're true. So that could be something like the build of software that I'm using to manipulate my data to train my network is what I built, is exactly what I intended it to be. And then what Inveri focuses on are attesting to the validity of the environment during its runtime. So the kernel, the operating system, the hardware, things around the core of the system. And ultimately, what it allows you to do is, ensure that, my systems are doing only what they're supposed to be doing. So if there was a previous job that ran on an HPC cluster, and it wasn't mine, I can verify that my job is running, that other job didn't leave anything behind to steal my data or somehow tamper with it. I can also prove that when I'm done, that system maintains its integrity for the next job coming through. So, encryption in use, attestation of your environment, including runtime attestation of your systems, all critical to help mitigate these risks around the data that we have.
Thank you so much. Actually, this is very helpful also personally to me because like usually, when we think about use of AI, we think of from a more, I guess from a customer point of view, or at least I do. And, I try to pay attention to certain things so that, I of course keep it for myself, my personal, like information out of it and whatever. But what you are talking is a very more technical part of it from what I understand.
For sure.
So with that, my next question is, let's say you are a CISO or maybe a risk manager. What should be the first thing? Like, let's say you are going to go to work tomorrow. Of course, all these things that you have mentioned is something they need to, look into as they go along with using AI or implementing it. But what should be the first thing that they should, like do right away as they start their work tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the first thing is, where is your data at? How is it being used? And how have you ensured both its security and its confidentiality in use, right? And especially as you said, you like to not put your private information inside an AI. And so that inference data, what are we doing with it? Are we protecting it as we're protecting the rest of the PII of our customers' data, right? It should be the same. So first, where's my data? How is it being protected? How am I ensuring the accuracy and the confidentiality of it? The second thing I would tell people is, go take a look at the Confidential Computing Consortium. It's a Linux Foundation project. Plenty of open source projects there. Lots of great videos on YouTube that kind of cover the topics that I mentioned. As well as, we here in Very are happy to help. So if people are interested in, looking at validating, the core of their systems at runtime, helping their data privacy and confidentiality, or just have general questions about confidential computing, we're here to help answer those questions as well.
Thank you so much. And with that, that was actually all of my questions. So, is there any last thing you like to add?
I think just the last thing real quick is it might seem complicated or perhaps expensive, and I would encourage folks that there are lots of ways that this is economic and efficient to do, and it's definitely something that we need to do. We work with both federal and commercial customers in this space, and they take a lot of care and effort and sort of pave the way and this infrastructure. And definitely something we think that a lot more organizations need to pick up to protect themselves and to protect their customers.
Sounds good. Indeed, I think like sometimes it might look like an extra cost, but it can bring much more opportunities or, safekeeping, I guess, for your company on a long term. So definitely, I think something they should all be, yeah, looking into as soon as possible. And yeah, with that, yeah, thank you so much, Jason, for joining us today. It was lovely to have you. And yeah, I think AI, of course, a very, very, popular topic, but it's also good to see it from a more, technical point of view rather than also just, the ethical or the law implications part of it too. So thank you so much.
Thanks, EC. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.